Be prepared. Something rare just aligned, and it demands you withdraw. The last 5 days of June aren't just calendar space. They're a strategic, energetic window, from Mercury entering Leo to explosive conversations with Pluto to a hidden frequency pulsing just beneath your skin. If you don't consciously step back, you risk missing the single activation the cosmos has been preparing for only you. This isn't a metaphor, this is real. And what's coming? It won't announce itself twice. There's something encoded in the last breath of June that most people will ignore. But if you listen closely, if you isolate just enough to receive, you won't just notice the shift, you'll become it. Stay close, because in a few moments, I'll reveal what that activation is. Once you understand it, everything, your cravings, your silence, your emotional roller coaster this month, will finally make sense. Before we go deeper, if this already resonates, pause and mark this moment. Hit the like button, subscribe to stay connected with updates like these, and drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to protect this activation window and receive what's coming. That number is not just a code, it's a confirmation. It says, I'm not just watching, I'm choosing. And it helps this message find the others who are meant to see it before the window closes. Let's begin properly. Most people believe astrology is only about the big events, the new moons, the retrogrades, the eclipses. But what they don't realize is that the real work, the real rewiring of your energy, doesn't happen during the peak. It happens in the tail, the echo, the part that feels quiet, almost invisible. That's where the universe hides its most precise adjustments. And the last 5 days of June are that tail. Quiet to the untrained eye, but pulsing with layered instructions if you know how to tune in. Starting June 26th, Mercury, the planet of thought, words, mental rhythm, moves into Leo. Now that might sound bright and bold, and in many ways it is. Mercury in Leo is theatrical, expressive, confident. But that energy doesn't explode right away. In fact, it first enters like a spark behind the curtain. You don't feel the fire, you feel the friction, that internal burn of needing to speak, but not knowing what the message is yet. That's why isolation becomes sacred. Because what's rising in your chest right now isn't just another thought. It's a revelation forming its voice. And if you're too distracted, too plugged in, too reactive, you'll speak prematurely and fracture something that was trying to emerge whole. Then, only a day later, Mercury connects in harmony with Saturn and Neptune, two massive forces representing discipline and dreams. The mind tries to bridge what's practical with what's divine. But that kind of frequency can't be absorbed in noise. It needs silence. Think of it like trying to hear a whale song while standing in traffic. You must step away, even just energetically, because the message you're meant to hear during this time doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the gap, that brief, uncomfortable pause where you're not sure what comes next. That's the space Saturn and Neptune work in. And here's where it begins to build. June 29th is not just another day. That's when Mercury opposes Pluto, and Pluto is no joke. It's the planet of secrets, shadow work, power dynamics, psychological rebirth. When it locks eyes with Mercury, words become weapons or keys. You'll either speak something that transforms your entire direction, or you'll hear something that cracks you open. Either way, your voice becomes a pressure point. One wrong reaction, one ungrounded decision, one unprocessed emotion, and things can get volatile. But if you isolate, if you give yourself time to listen first, to prepare, to protect your emotional field, then what emerges from this transit can be life-altering in the best way. This is why I say isolation isn't avoidance, it's alignment. Now, you might be wondering, why now? Why is this specific end of June window so intense? It's because Mercury is also moving into what we call retrograde shadow. the pre-phase of Mercury retrograde. And if you've ever lived through one, you know the drill: miscommunications, tech glitches, emotional déjà vu. But here's what most people don't know. The shadow is when the seed is planted. The retrograde just reveals what was already set in motion. So during these final days, you are literally encoding your future communication cycles. And if you do it in noise, you plant chaos. But if you do it in stillness, with intention, with presence, you plant clarity, vision, power. The truth is, everything about these days, from the emotional rawness of Cancer season, to the boldness of Leo Mercury, to the psychological undercurrent of Pluto, demands that you stop playing on the surface. You're being asked to go down, not up, to clear your internal chamber so a very specific activation can drop in. And yes, that activation is real. I'll reveal exactly what it is soon. But for now, I want you to feel the truth of this in your own body. You already know what's pulling you inward. You already feel the need to pull back, shut down distractions, disappear for a few hours or a few days. That's not weakness, that's resonance. That's your nervous system tuning itself for a message that was designed to land during this exact week. And now you've been given the chance to align with it. So if you're still here, you already know this message was meant for you. Not everyone will understand the urgency, but you do. So take one moment, like this video, subscribe for more cosmic guidance, and comment 77 below as a sign that you're not just consuming, you're committing. Because what we're about to explore next is the part almost no one is talking about. And when you see it, it'll change the way you view everything that's happening to you right now. Let's go deeper. Chapter 1, June 26th. Mercury enters Leo. Let's begin with June 26, the day Mercury, the planet of communication, intelligence, and mental rhythm, steps into Leo. On paper, it sounds exciting. Mercury in Leo is expressive, dramatic, magnetic. It gives your words flavor, boldness, even power. But here's where most people misread the energy. The moment Mercury enters Leo, it doesn't hand you a microphone, it hands you a spotlight. Now that sounds glamorous, right? But imagine this. You're backstage, still learning your lines, still unsure what role you're playing. And suddenly, the lights come on. The curtain lifts. Everyone's watching. That's Mercury in Leo when you're unprepared. And that's exactly why isolation becomes protection. Because this is not the moment to speak before the words are fully formed. It's the moment to sit in stillness and let the script finish writing itself within you. You might ask, but isn't Leo a confident sign? Shouldn't this be about stepping up and being seen? Yes, but only after you've clarified what part of you is ready to be seen. Leo rules the heart, and Mercury brings that heart into language. But unless you take the time to be honest with yourself in silence first, your words may come out louder, but not clearer. You'll be speaking from noise, not truth. That's why Mercury entering Leo marks the start of the inner rehearsal, not the performance. And rehearsals by nature are messy, emotional, private. You try things, you break character. You ask, does this version of me still fit? And you can't answer that question in a crowd. You need the sacred bubble that only isolation provides, because until you take a step back, the world will keep pressuring you to perform a role you may have already outgrown. Here's the trap. Mercury in Leo can tempt you to speak boldly before the message is ripe. And that's when misfires happen. Unnecessary arguments, inflated egos, performative expression that drains your energy instead of amplifying it. But if you honor this moment as an incubation phase, your voice becomes a vessel for something far more powerful than charisma. It becomes a mirror for your soul's current vibration. So what do you do during this entrance phase? You go inward. You observe what wants to be said, but hold space for it before declaring it out loud. You notice what stories your mind is rehearsing. You watch what truths your body wants to speak, but hasn't found the words for yet. And here's the real magic. By staying in that quiet space, something inside you starts to take shape. The next version of your message, the upgraded form of your expression. And that's the part we'll return to later, because there's a specific aspect of you that's waiting for this exact configuration of Leo boldness and Mercury intellect to come online. It's not ready yet, but it will be, and when it is, your words will not just be louder, they'll be electric. Remember, when Mercury shifts signs, your mind recalibrates. Your focus, your tone, even your inner voice takes on a new color. In Leo, it wants to roar. But a wise lion doesn't roar just to be heard. It roars when it knows why it speaks. That's what these next few days are for. Let the fire rise slowly. Let your message ripen in silence. Because soon, you'll be called to say something that echoes. And when that moment comes, you'll want every word to carry the truth you rehearsed in your quietest hour. Chapter 2. June 27th to 28th. Mercury trines Saturn and Neptune. As Mercury settles into Leo, it begins forming two of the most important angles of this entire cycle, one to Saturn and the other to Neptune. These aspects will unfold between June 27th and 28th, and they're not loud, not fiery, not explosive. They're quietly life-changing, but only if you can hear them. Mercury trine Saturn brings structure. Mercury trine Neptune brings imagination. And when both happen at once, your mind becomes the bridge between two worlds, the practical and the poetic, the grounded and the divine. But here's the catch. This alignment doesn't scream for your attention. It whispers. And if you're still immersed in noise, in external conversations, in endless online loops or emotional reactivity, you'll miss the instruction entirely. You might be wondering, why do I feel more mentally active, yet somehow less clear? Why does it feel like something's trying to speak through me, but it hasn't found the words yet? That's because these aspects create a kind of frequency fog. Your higher self is reaching out, but the signal is passing through both stone and mist. Saturn wants to anchor your thoughts into long-term structure. Neptune wants to dissolve old illusions and infuse your ideas with soul. Together, they're asking, can you hold a dream in one hand and a blueprint in the other? The truth is, most people can't. Not unless they isolate. Not unless they carve out stillness long enough to recognize the dual conversation happening inside them. Mercury doesn't rush in this state. It downloads. Ideas come as fragments, sentences that begin in the body, images that flash behind the eyes, and only in solitude, journaling, meditating, breathing without a goal, do those pieces begin to align into something tangible. Think of this as the cosmic equivalent of catching a butterfly. If you chase it, it escapes. But if you sit still and open your palm, it might land. These trines are that butterfly. They offer clarity, but only if you give up control. This is the phase where a new strategy begins to reveal itself, not loud, not obvious, but elegant. And more importantly, tailored. What Saturn wants to help you build is specific to your path. What Neptune wants to help you dream is unique to your healing. But the guidance won't arrive in a to-do list. It'll arrive as a whisper you almost miss. That's why isolation is your tool, not your punishment. Because this isn't about escaping the world. It's about hearing the world within you just long enough to understand what's next. Chapter 3, June 29th, Mercury opposite Pluto. As June 29th arrives, the tone shifts sharply. The quiet calibration of the previous days gives way to something far more intense. Mercury in Leo moves into direct opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. And suddenly, the stakes rise. This isn't a casual alignment. This is cosmic confrontation. Mercury, the planet of language, ideas, and perception, stands face to face with Pluto, the ruler of power, transformation, shadow, and truth. When these two meet, words stop being neutral. Every sentence carries weight. Every thought holds the potential to unlock or to unravel. You might feel it as a sudden need to say something you've been holding back. A conversation that's been circling finally demands to be had. Or a buried truth in someone else rises to the surface, sharper than expected. Whatever form it takes, the atmosphere becomes electrified. Like standing in a room full of matches, one spark, and the air itself catches fire. That's why isolation becomes more important now than ever. Because if you're emotionally unprepared, this energy doesn't just stir, it detonates. A misunderstanding becomes a meltdown. A comment becomes a confrontation. But here's the thing, none of it is random. Pluto doesn't deal in chaos, it deals in reveal. So if something surfaces under this opposition, it's because it was already hiding beneath the surface. You might be asking, why does this feel like a test? Why are my thoughts turning so intense? Because Mercury is no longer just collecting information, it's standing at the gateway of transformation. And Pluto doesn't let anything pass through unless it's honest. If there's a lie you've been telling yourself about who you are, what you want, or who you pretend to be, it's going to crack now. But how that crack happens depends entirely on how you respond. Think of communication right now as a double-edged sword. In stillness, it becomes a scalpel, precise, healing, surgical. But in reactivity, it becomes a blade, sharp, emotional, and dangerous. Isolation gives you the time to choose how you use it. Not everything needs to be said immediately. Some truths grow more powerful when they're allowed to breathe first. And yes, there's something else embedded in this moment. A secret step we'll come back to later. One that can turn this opposition into an opportunity. Because hidden within this volatile energy is a doorway. But you can only pass through it if you're grounded enough to recognize it. This is your moment to pause, not speak, reflect, not react. Because if you get this right, the conversation that's coming won't just shift your week. It could change your entire trajectory. Chapter 4, June 30th, Mercury retroshadow begins. And now we arrive at June 30th, the last day of the month, but the first day of something subtle and slippery. Mercury enters its retroshadow. Most people don't even notice this phase. It doesn't come with drama, glitches, or loud cosmic alarms. But make no mistake, this is where the rewiring truly begins. The retroshadow is Mercury's prelude to retrograde. It's when the planet starts slowing down, retracing the path it will soon walk backward over. Think of it as the ghost of your future echoing into the present. You don't see the full reversal yet, but the mirror has been placed, and from here on out, you'll start to feel your thoughts looping, conversations circling, plans pausing, life asking, "Are you sure?" This is when messages begin to come back around, not because you missed them, but because you're meant to see them differently. It's the relationship you thought you were over that resurfaces. The idea you once abandoned that suddenly seems relevant again. The old pattern that you thought was healed, now reappearing in a different costume. Not to punish you, but to offer a new lens. You might be asking, why does this feel like déjà vu? Why am I being pulled backward just as I thought I was gaining momentum? Because the universe doesn't care about your speed, it cares about your precision. And Mercury retroshadow is the quiet checkpoint that asks, what part of you isn't finished yet? This moment is powerful precisely because it feels ordinary. There's no cosmic fanfare. But in the silence of this day, a deeper algorithm is being reset, the blueprint of how you think, speak, decide, and remember. And the part of your life being marked for revision. It might just be the one thing you thought you had mastered. That's why this moment is so essential. If you rush past it, you'll miss the breadcrumb. If you sit with it, it might show you where your next initiation begins. And that brings us to something we've hinted at since the beginning, the hidden activation, the signal that's been pulsing underneath all this energy. We're not quite ready to open that door yet, but now you know where it started. This is the first flicker, the first clue. A moment of silence where the universe quietly placed something in your hands, waiting for you to notice. Don't worry, we're getting closer, because what's coming next will show you exactly what's been trying to emerge through all of this. And once you see it, you won't unsee it. Chapter 5. Inner Solstice Reflection, June 30th Energy Fold. As Mercury shifts into retro shadow on June 30th, something deeper begins to stir beneath the surface, something tied not to the speed of planets, but to the rhythm of the sun itself. Because this day doesn't just mark a mental turning point, it holds a solar echo. 10 days earlier, on June 20th, the summer solstice arrived, a moment of maximum light, the longest day of the year. It opened a portal that illuminated everything, your intentions, your wounds, your desires. But what most people don't realize is that the solstice isn't just a single moment. It unfolds like a wave, and June 30th is the final crest of that wave, the moment when all that light starts folding inward. Think of it like holding your breath at the peak of a mountain. The solstice was the inhale, the energy built, the lungs expanded. But this is the pause before the exhale. It's the sacred stillness just before something releases. That's why everything about this day feels slightly suspended, like time is holding its breath, like your spirit is waiting for a quiet signal before it moves forward. You might be asking, but wasn't the solstice about action, about clarity and forward movement? Yes, but clarity means nothing without integration. This is the part where the clarity settles into your bones, where the solar codes you've been absorbing finally start taking shape in the background. That's why stillness isn't just recommended today, it's required. June 30th is the bridge between illumination and embodiment, between what was revealed and what's about to be reborn. The light has done its job. Now your body, your nervous system, your energy field must catch up. And that can only happen in silence, in solitude, in space. This day isn't here to push you, it's here to invite you, to pull you inward long enough to harvest the growth the solstice began. This is where you ask, what lit up for me this month? What truth became impossible to ignore? What seed did I plant that's now ready to be protected, not exposed? Because in this pause, something is crystallizing. A knowing, a direction, a version of you that isn't louder, but more aligned. And unless you give it room to root, the intensity of July will uproot what was just beginning to settle. Stay with this stillness. Trust that nothingness isn't empty. It's sacred incubation, the breath before the transformation, and it's preparing you for what comes next. Chapter 6. Emotional Landscape and Personal Pressure. As we linger in the stillness of June 30th, the emotional climate intensifies, not because of chaos, but because Cancer season is reaching its deepest point. This is the part of the cycle where energy no longer dances around you. It starts pressing into you, quietly, deeply, relentlessly. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and nothing the moon touches remains untouched emotionally. Its influence doesn't scream, it seeps into memory, into longing, into the soft corners of the heart you usually protect. And right now, that lunar pull is at its most tender, which means the world may feel heavier, the body more sensitive, and your spirit strangely vulnerable. You might be asking, why am I feeling so reactive, so nostalgic? Why do the smallest things feel like they carry ancient weight? Because Cancer doesn't just stir feelings, it unearths history. Not just the personal kind, but emotional memories that live in your body, often without words. This isn't just moodiness, It's cellular recall. You're remembering grief you never processed, joy you forgot to feel, paths you almost took but didn't. And it's all surfacing now, not to overwhelm you, but to offer a final clearing. This is where the pressure builds, not external, but internal. You may feel an invisible hand pressing gently on your chest, a sense that something important is trying to rise through your emotional field, but it hasn't quite formed language yet. And the danger here is distraction. If you stay too plugged in, too available, too focused on outer obligations, you'll miss the message your heart is whispering from beneath the noise. That's why isolation during this time isn't a retreat, it's a recalibration. It's not about avoiding people, it's about protecting the fragile truths just starting to take shape inside you. This is the soft alchemy, the one that can't be performed in public. It requires the absence of expectation, the safety to fall apart if needed, the silence to feel without explaining. Cancer season is a time for nesting, not just physically, but energetically. Think of your aura like a cocoon right now, thin, delicate, forming something entirely new within it. And if you push yourself to perform while it's still weaving, you risk tearing the very threads meant to carry you forward. Let yourself be soft here. Let the tears come without reason. Let the laughter feel oddly ancient, because your body is processing more than your mind can label. And that's okay. You don't need to explain what you're feeling. You only need to feel it, privately, gently, safely, because what's taking shape in this emotional stillness, it may just be the next version of you. Chapter 7. Why you must isolate and what happens if you don't. By the time you reach the final stretch of June, the energies aren't just flowing, they're stacking, layer upon layer, frequency upon frequency. Mercury in Leo wants to roar, Neptune whispers the language of dreams. Pluto digs up buried truths. Cancer pulls you into emotional memory, and beneath it all, Mercury's retro shadow starts rearranging your mental timeline. It's a full-body, full-spirit recalibration, and if you're not careful, it becomes a full-system overload. This is why isolation isn't a luxury right now, it's a necessity. You might be wondering, but isn't isolation just avoidance? Isn't this the time to face it all, speak it, act on it? Not yet, because when all these cosmic forces collide without intention, what results isn't clarity, it's chaos. It's like trying to listen to 5 different songs at full volume and expecting to sing in harmony. It doesn't work. Your nervous system doesn't know where to focus. Your energy field short circuits. Your emotions become flooded. Your mind spirals, and you end up burnt out, confused, or at odds with people you care about. This isn't just astrological theory, it's energetic law. Every one of these planetary transits is a message in a different dialect, and you are the translator. But translation requires space, silence, time. Without it, you react instead of respond. You externalize what should have been internalized. You lash out when you were supposed to integrate, and the very transformations meant to awaken you end up overwhelming you. Picture it like this. Your system is running an update in the background. Isolation is the safe mode. It limits interference. It protects the internal reprogramming that's happening quietly, steadily, invisibly. But if you keep using the system, socializing, oversharing, overscheduling, you interrupt the process. The data gets corrupted. The reset doesn't complete. These last 5 days of June are designed like a cosmic operating table. Every alignment is a surgical instrument, precise, potent, and sacred. But if you keep flinching, fighting, or fleeing the process, the surgery can't complete. The wound stays open, the shift never locks in. So don't underestimate this moment. Don't override the urge to pull back. The solitude you're being called into, it's not isolation, it's initiation. And if you embrace it, something rare will complete itself inside you, something that's been building all month long. And if you don't, You may not even realize what you missed, only that something feels unfinished, unstable, lost in the noise. That's why the final chapter of this message matters so much, because we're about to reveal what this entire window has been preparing you for and why your hands, of all things, hold the key to anchoring it. Chapter 8, Chapter of Reveal, the Mercury-Pluto Secret Activation. And now here it is, the moment everything has been building toward. During the Mercury-Pluto opposition, hidden beneath the emotional waves and mental rewiring, a subtle activation code was sent to your body, not your mind, not your intellect, your nervous system. In silence, your system began downloading a new layer of internal language, a mercurial spiritual dialect that your voice, your hands, and your intuition have been waiting to remember. But here's the key. This activation can only complete if you've made enough space, if you've been still enough, silent enough. The code doesn't arrive in noise. It arrives in the spaces between. And once integrated, it rewires the way you speak, create, and navigate reality. You become clearer, sharper, guided. So if you've felt something shifting in your touch, in your words, in your gut, it's because your system is already responding. And from this moment forward, everything changes. If this spoke to you, press the like button, subscribe, and if you're already part of our family, make sure to press the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this journey, it's only just beginning.